This is the Eastward Update. I'm Councilmember Derwin L. Montgomery. Leave your Facebook comments and questions below, and we'll respond to them. The city has seen economic improvements over recent years, but the community continues to face economic challenges. One agency working to overcome those is the Winston-Salem Urban League. James Perry, their CEO, joins me to discuss what they're doing to help address those issues. James, great to have you. We are growing in the city of Winston-Salem, but everyone's not growing at the same pace. There are some clear changes that are happening across the community, but there are clear divides that are happening, and we can see some people, particularly in some of our minority communities, are not moving at the same pace as others. And the Urban League is well positioned to help this community talk about these issues, and not just talk about them, but begin to do something about it. How do you see those issues, and what do you see us moving towards as a community?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And yeah, it's a fundamentally difficult issue. And I think that there are two huge challenges. The first one is one that communities all across the world are wrestling with, and it is the way that technology has changed the way that we work, right? So that the job training of the past just doesn't work anymore. You know, so frankly, so many jobs are disappearing because technology steps in and frankly kind of takes those jobs away. It also means that people need a different skill set in order to qualify for job opportunities. So it moves us into the next issue, which is education, right? And so it means that when you have an education system that already was having difficulties, you have this need to then amplify what it can do, right? And you have to amplify particularly in science and math, and one of the areas where we are constantly struggling in Forsyth County. So, so then the issue becomes, well, what are you doing as the Urban League? And so the main thing that we're trying to do is to bridge that skill gap. And it's incredibly difficult to do. What we're trying to do is to figure out what employers need and then provide those skills to folks who are looking for job opportunities. And so that's the challenge.
And so when you think about the areas and those STEM areas that you mentioned, how is that challenge being faced, particularly with those individuals who are having to be retrained, those individuals who have been out in the workforce and now they see the skill sets that they had just are not the skills that companies and others are looking for?
So there's a company here who it's a big company, and they have a warehouse, right? And I went to visit it and was shocked to realize that in some ways the skill sets that people have actually work. It's just that we have to rethink about those skill sets. So I know someone who wanted to be a forklift driver. So I went to go visit this place, and what I realized was that in order to be a forklift driver there now, you have to know how to operate a drone, because all the forklifts are drones, right? So, and if you know how to play a video game really well, then basically you can be a forklift driver. But you have to pass this fairly difficult science and math test in order to qualify to drive their drones. So all these kids who play video games really well actually qualify for those jobs if they can pass the test, right? So the truth is that it's not a really difficult gap. It's just that we're not really thinking about it in those terms, right? How do we get these kids who play video games all day long to realize that this is a great job for them that pays really well, but we just have to get them to pass this one science and math test that they can qualify for it.
So it's really that in some ways we as a community have compartmentalized our skills in certain ways, and we've only kind of looked at the fact that if we're gifted in this area, then it's only attributed to this particular place that doesn't come back to commerce.
Right. I mean, how many times does a parent say, get off of that video game and go do your homework, right? In fact, how do we change this around so we say, make that video game into your homework, right? Because it really could be the thing that makes your career for the rest of your life.
And I think that's important when you think about, it was a commercial not too long ago that the Air Force did. I think it was a little kid who was playing a video game, and then they transitioned into the same individual operating a drone for the Air Force in the sense of how those skills change. So that's one area in terms of when we think about training. What are some of the other barriers that you see in this community that stand in the way of individuals accessing good paying jobs?
Well, look, so I don't want to miss this point about basic reading and writing skills. You know, so we see it every single day: reading, writing, and then folks who are just either afraid of or don't know how to use computers. I mean, these basic issues are pervasive across the community. And so, you know, we've partnered with a number of organizations to make sure that folks are who don't know how to read and write, frankly, are getting those skills outside of a traditional classroom, and that's a major challenge. The second issue of getting folks just frankly familiar with a computer is a big deal, and you know, it's something that I think for folks like you and me who use computers every day, we take it for granted. But there's and certainly not you. I mean, I think you know the community so well, but there's so many people who don't use computers and don't own computers, and so trying to get a laptop or computer into the hands of every single person in our community is fundamentally important.
And I think that touches on another community concern that we have to have and take on seriously. And I think for those individuals who have computers in their homes, who have internet in their homes, they take for granted the fact that all of the neighborhoods in Winston-Salem, every household doesn't even have the access to internet, right. And high-speed internet. And so when we begin to think about the tools and the resources that are there, that many folks can just, you know, whip out a laptop, Google something, Wikipedia something, and get some information. But we take that for granted that everybody has that access, right. Which is not true. There's another great program that you all do that helps individuals in our community access to jobs, and that's working with seniors. Sure. Tell us a little bit about that.
The CSEP program, Senior Community Service Employment Program, it's a mouthful. It's been around since 1968, and it helps seniors who are down on their luck connect to employment opportunity. And so folks can come to the Urban League and we'll sign you up. We will essentially give seniors an internship with a local nonprofit. They'll make a little bit over minimum wage and work 20 hours a week and get their job skills together. And once they got their job skills honed, then we'll get them connected with a local employer. And it's part of the reason that we know so much about what local employers need and why we are so busy trying to make sure that folks know how to operate drones and that kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah, so what are some things that you just want the public to know about the Urban League and the work they're doing in economic areas or on other issues?
Well, I think one of the most important things is for the public to really be focused on this issue of working with the Urban League and the council on issues. I think sometimes folks will get really, and I'm sure you know this, get frustrated about the pace. And you know, the thing that I see all the time is just how hard you work and how hard folks are working to make change in this community. But it takes time, and it is a really challenging process. And as long as folks continue to be committed, we'll see change happen. But it is a difficult process.
Yeah, it definitely is. One last thing that I do want folks to know about is we've been great partners with the Urban League for several years now in reference to our youth summer employment program. We're looking forward to that partnership continuing. And so how many youth over the summer do you all normally help us employ?
It's usually about 150 to 160 kids. It's an amazing program. You know, you see kids come into that program, you know, kind of rough around the edges, and by the end of the summer, you see them, you know, yes sir, yes ma'am. And you know, one of the great things that happens is at the beginning of the summer, they write their own resume. We get them all suited up. They interview with local employers, and so they figure out who they're going to intern with for the summer. You know, they learn how to punch the clock and how to show up on time, and they get some money in their pocket. So it's really incredible. The other major point here is that, you know, all the families who participate, all the kids who participate are low-income families, and so the great thing that the council makes possible is that for families who may not have very much income, this is an income opportunity, and sometimes this is the only way that folks get to make groceries or buy groceries for their families. So it is a really incredible program, and we're really proud of it and proud of the partnership.
Well, we're grateful for it, and we see many of the kids in many different parts of our community who are benefiting from it, and again, bringing some additional income in their pockets. But as you stated, some of these families and communities, they're making a difference in the family. That's right. By having these jobs during the summer. James, I thank you for taking some time out to talk to us about some of the issues that we face, particularly on the economic front of the community. The Urban League is a very valued partner in this community. We're grateful for your leadership there at the Urban League.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
That's the East Ward Update. I'm East Ward Council Member Derwin L. Montgomery. Remember to leave your comments or questions below, and we'll respond.